The Great Pyramid of Giza wasn't a miracle. It was a massive invoice that almost bankrupted the dynasty. To the casual observer, it is a feat of faith. To the technical auditor, it is a high-stakes logistics gamble. With a zero-margin delivery window, now let's peel back the mythology and verify the receipts. It's time to audit the operating system of this civilization. The macro audit of the Fourth Dynasty reveals a staggering procurement challenge. We aren't just discussing local limestone, we are auditing the delivery of monolithic granite beams, some weighing up to 80 tons. From the Aswan quarries, located 800 kilometers upstream in modern logistics, moving a single 80-ton component requires specialized multi-axle trailers and months of route planning. For the Old Kingdom, the invoice for these stones represented the single largest capex risk in human history. The Nile was never a god to the project managers, it was a seasonal conveyor belt. The macro goal was simple: synchronize the extraction of high-density material with the annual Akhet or inundation. This was a hydraulic supply chain. If the water levels failed to hit the target elevation, the Nile OS would crash, leaving the most expensive inventory in the world stranded on a dry riverbed. This was the first critical path in history where failure to meet the seasonal deadline resulted in a systemic collapse of the project timeline. To understand the micrologistics of the Nile OS, we have to look at the primary paper trail, the Diary of Mir. This isn't a religious text, it's a logistics logbook. Mir was a middle management project manager and inspector overseeing a crew of 200 men. His daily entries don't mention the gods. They track the procurement and transport of limestone from Torah to Giza. Let's audit the unique cost of moving the heavy lift inventory, while Mir handled limestone, the 80-ton granite beams. For the king's chamber represented the peak of supply chain risk. At Aswan, the procurement phase began with fire setting and diorite pounding. A high-energy burn rate of human labor, but the extraction was the easy part. The receipts tell us that the entire project lived or died by the critical path method (CPM) of the Nile's inundation. The Nile's flood was the system's hydraulic lift. We calculate a narrow 120-day delivery window known as the Akhet. During these for months, the water level rose by 7 meters. This wasn't just water, it was the energy source. That lowered the technical debt of friction by digging specialized canals and logistics harbors right up to the base of the Giza Plateau. The PIM is essentially built a seasonal conveyor belt. Now, look at the org chart. This was a corporate structure of unprecedented scale. The scribes were the data analysts of the Old Kingdom. They didn't just count blocks, they managed the caloric ROI. To move an 80-ton granite monolith, you need a specialized crew. We aren't looking at slaves. We are looking at highly skilled biological hardware workforce. Every man-hour was an investment. If a barge carrying a granite beam got stuck in the mud because the scribes miscalculated the hydraulic draft, the burn rate didn't stop. The 200-man crew still had to be fed. A stranded 80-ton stone was a frozen asset that could stall the entire pyramid's construction timeline. The resource allocation had to be perfect. Mir's logs indicate a relentless back-and-forth cycle, Torah to Giza, Giza to Torah, every 4 days. A new shipment. The receipts from the Diary of Mir show us that the pyramid was a project managed through information logistics. The scribes were tracking the delivery versus consumption rate of stones. If the delivery rate dropped below the mason's consumption rate, the project hit a supply chain bottleneck. To prevent this, the Old Kingdom utilized a just-in-time JIT delivery model. They didn't store all the stone at Giza. They timed the extraction at the quarries to match the peak flow of the river. This was a high-pressure operating system. One crack in a granite beam during transport, one season of low Nile water levels, and the dynasty's primary investment would turn into a catastrophic write-off. The ancient Pimas knew that physics doesn't care about pharaohs. They audited the river, they audited the calories, and they audited the last-mile delivery. The pyramid is simply the physical manifestation of a perfectly executed 20-year logistics contract. The boardroom verdict on the Fourth Dynasty is clear. The Nile Conveyor Belt was an engineering triumph of high-performance logistics, but it created a staggering amount of technical debt. The project achieved its primary capex goals. The pyramid was completed, and the monolithic invoices for the Aswan granite were cleared. However, the system's absolute reliance on a single, seasonal logistics engine was its ultimate vulnerability. Our audit indicates that the Old Kingdom was not a victim of mystery or decline, but of a supply chain bottleneck that became systemic. You cannot run a high-output operating system on a hydraulic debt that the river refuses to pay. The receipts of history prove that the state had optimized itself so thoroughly for a single, massive project that it lost the ability to pivot when the Nile's flood levels dropped for sustained periods. The burn rate of the central administration exceeded its resource allocation. The centralized logistics, the very conveyor belt that moved 80-ton stones, could not adapt to a decentralized famine. Greatness, in the eyes of an auditor, is not measured by the height of the stone, but by the sustainability of the supply chain. Human ambition is infinite. The laws of physics and the flow of the river are not. If you wish to review the full audit report on the Nile Conveyor Belt, the file is available in the playlist.